This is the first part of a two-part video series in replacing FusedLocationProviderApi with FusedLocationProviderClient. In this video, we're simply going to take an overview look at what we're going to do, and in the next video, we're going to do a hands-on example. We're going to quickly go through these slides and jump right in after that. So we're going to look at why, what stays and what goes, and what's new and what's changed. So why? API changes are fairly frequent in Android, and the location services is a good example of that. I remember very long ago we had to request how we wanted to get our GPS, whether we wanted to use GPS satellites or cell tower triangulation. There were all kinds of different things we had to do around accuracy and speed and things like that. A fairly manual process, but fairly straightforward. After that, they came out with a new release called Google API Client, and then around that time also a new permissions model. Now, FusedLocationProviderClient is something that's newer than the Google API Client and the FusedLocationProviderApi, which is now deprecated. So deprecated doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't use something. It just means that it's eventually going to be going away, and that there's a recommended approach which is better, maybe better security, maybe more efficient, more performance, something like that. Now, one thing that happens a lot in Android is this concept of breaking changes, where something is deprecated and then they simply remove support for it in the future. I find that it happens faster in Android than in other programming languages that I'm used to. A lot of times you upgrade a library and then find your application doesn't build anymore, and it's because things that were deprecated have been removed. So, nonetheless, there's a lot of legacy application as well, so many times you'll jump into an application that might have been written 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and you need to know the way things used to work. So here's what stays in the new permission model. I'm sorry, in the new GPS model. Permissions, the same way that we prompt for permissions because this is considered a dangerous permission. Location request, which is how we define the accuracy and how frequently we want updates. What goes is the Google API client, a lot of the connected and disconnected callbacks, and then constantly checking to see if Google API client is connected. A few new things. We have something new called location callback, and then we have something called FusedLocationProviderClient, which we're going to take a look at, and location services, get FusedProviderLocationClient, location result, and then we're going to move where we have the logic for what changes when our location changes. So in our next video, we will jump in and do those changes. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.